Hi, this is Terry Bay of Terry Bay Needlework Designs, and welcome to my Stitch Guide series. If you have any questions after you watch the video, you can reach me at the email and the website that you see in front of you. Alright, today we are going to do hem stitching. This is going to be your very basic beginner hem stitch. For those of you in the audience who are left-handed like me, I'm going to show it left-handed first, and then I'm going to show it right-handed. It's about time we lefties went first. Anyway, to start with for a hem stitch, you need an open channel. If you need to know how to create an open channel, go back and watch the video that's entitled Creating an Open Channel. Alright, we're going to start a hem stitch with what is called an inline knot, which means I'm going to put the knot in a place where I'm going to come back and stitch over the thread without having to rethread it and weave it under at this end. I'm going to stitch over it as I stitch. There, awkward way of saying that, but you got it. Okay, so I put my knot one fabric thread down from the hem stitch, or from the open channel, an inch or two, doesn't matter too much, from the edge of my hem stitch, and I will be working toward it. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to come up 2 threads below the channel in the fabric. Now a hem stitch's entire purpose in life is to bundle up these threads and pull them tight. So we're making a loop around the threads in the channel. That's all you need to think of, is you need to make a loop. So we're going to come up into the channel directly above the first point and go behind 4 fabric threads. That is 5. There's 4. And pull through. Now we're just going to loop those threads. We're going to go right back across the front of those same 4 fabric threads and take it to the back. Okay, so I show you the front, show you the back. I've made a loop around those 4 fabric threads, and that's all I've done. That's what a hem stitch is to do. It's to loop those threads. And that is literally 1 hem stitch there. Now to start the second one, I'm going to come up 2 fabric threads down from the channel again, 4 fabric threads over from the first one, or you can think of it as right below that first hem stitch. And now I'm going to pull tight toward the bottom of the channel. I'm sorry, I got to put my thumb on there. Pinching and pulling helps a lot. The reason you pull downward is it helps set the loop down to the bottom of the channel. If I pulled this way, that loop wouldn't be pulled downward as much. And I do like to pinch and pull. That means I hang on to this as I pull it, because otherwise it makes my fabric bunchy, and we don't like getting things in a bunch, do we? Pun intended. There is 1 hem stitch. So I'm going to do this again. Now I'm doing it left-handed, which means I'm going left to right. When I flip it over and do the other side of the channel to make it a ladder hem stitch, I will do right to left, which is right-handed. So I'm going behind 4 threads, pulling it through. Drop back, wrapped around those same 4 threads. Now I'm going to do this in 1 motion instead of 2, which means I'm going to come to the front instead of dropping back and letting go of it. So I've made my loop, and I'm coming up again, 2 fabric threads in the channel, 4 down. There's what it looks like on the back, and see how I'm catching that tail from my inline knot? And pulling it downward. I'll try and do it without pinching. Yeah, no, I got to pinch. So You know, you get in a habit, you learn to do it one way, and it's really hard to do it another. All right, I'm just going to keep going across the channel here. Behind 4. Loop, complete the loop, and to the front. Give it a pull. They'll get a little tighter when I do the latter portion. Now, normally also in a hem stitch, I would use thread that matches my fabric, because in pulled work, your goal is to see the holes, not the thread. For demonstration purposes, I'm using a contrasting thread so you can see the stitches, see how it works, because you're learning how to do the stitch, not just wanting to see me make a beautiful hem stitch with thread you can't see. Now, I have gotten over to my knot. So at this point, I'm going to take my trusty little scissors, give it a little tension, and snip that knot off, because when I look at the back, I've incorporated it in my stitching. All right, I'm going to zip across the rest of this row left-handed, and of course I catch the fabric. And then I will come back and do the other side right-handed. Well, in the right-handed direction with my left hand. But that's how it goes. Behind the 4, loop them, and to the front. Behind the 4, loop, and front. Hem stitch is one of these things that I find when I get it going, it's a great one for watching TV, because your hands can pretty much go on automatic on this once you have it established. I did some church linens that were 9 foot long, and they were ladder hem stitched. I got really good at hem stitch and watched a lot of movies doing those linens. They turned out beautiful. One of the funniest bits was the fact that I pre-washed everything before I did the church linens, because I knew they were going to be washed frequently after, and I didn't want the fabric and the thread to shrink differently. So I had, I believe, 11 or 12 yards of fabric that I had washed and then hung it up all over the bathroom to dry. And my poor daughter then wanted to go in and take a bath and couldn't, because there was linen draped all over the bathroom. Poor kid. Okay, almost to the end of the row, so we'll show you how to finish off a row. So I've done my last loop. I'm going to come to the front and do one last little vertical stitch here, because that just finishes off the row neatly. Turn it to the back. Take my thread under, 4 or 5 or 3. I'm going to go with 4 this time, of the hem stitches, and snug it up a little bit. All right, so there's the back. Let me cut it off. And there's the front. Now this is what we would call a single hem stitch, because we've got it hem stitched on just one side of this open channel because this side is stitched, this side has no stitching. So now I'm going to make it into a ladder hem stitch. A ladder hem stitch has stitching on both sides of the channel. And I'll do this right-handed for the righties in the audience. Okay, so I flipped it around. My stitching is now on the top, and the unstitched portion is toward me. Doesn't have to be that way, but that's the way that I've found is the most convenient for me. Okay, I'm again going to start with an inline knot, and now I'm going to work right to left, because this is how a righty would do it. It's the exact same thing. I'm coming up 2 threads below the end of the channel, but this time on the right-handed side. I'm going to go behind 4 threads. And since this is the laddered part, my 4 threads are already counted, so it makes that part even easier. Loop those 4 threads, come to the front again, and pull downward. And now you can see, now if I weren't using contrasting thread, if this was white thread, you wouldn't see it as clearly, but we've got 1 loop at the top and 1 at the bottom. If it was white on white, that wouldn't be as clear. But that's one of the reasons that I pull downward, is so I can keep those loops at the top and the bottom seated correctly instead of trying to overlap each other. And pull downward. So it is, like I say, just the same as what we did on the first side. We're just doing both edges. Did I catch that? Uh-oh. I've not been catching my thread. Well, dang it. You can either back up and recatch it. In this case, I'm just going to make sure I get it this time. And sometimes when I will just thread that onto my needle and do it that way when I haven't caught it. It is a little more difficult for me this way because, yeah, I'm left-handed. And I am getting it up into my hand in front of the camera a little bit more. I'll get over to the knot, and then I'm going to show you just a couple information things, and then be done with it. Okay, so I've stitched my way over to the knot. We're going to pretend that I caught the thread with every stitch. I caught it once I realized I hadn't been. Give it a little tension. Why do I give it a little tension? It just pulls things snug in the back. And it kind of tightens my first stitch a little bit. Alright, so here's what I'm showing you. Alright, you can see this is a ladder hem stitch. I think they call it that because these look more like the rungs of a ladder. And then this would be a simple or single hem stitch. And then of course you would do it all the way to the edge and ended it like I showed you on the first row. But this video is already long enough, and since I've showed you the ending once, I don't need to show it twice. There you go for hem stitching. Thanks for watching.